did you know that if you take that Pink Floyd album and you sync it up, you can sync it up to the original Wizard of Oz, and it's totally trippy.
I totally tried it. It's like bizarre almost how all the lyrics perfectly line up to the film.
Yeah, but you got to be the portal.
Is that it?
It's like, yeah, because one time I tried it, and
without the portal?
Without the portal.
And then what happened?
Then it was just like I was listening to music and watching a movie, but with the portal, I peed myself.
So the portal's totally where it's at, man.
It is, yeah.
What are we doing right now?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to From the Middle, another podcast. Episode 30 of this one is going to be a good one, and that we promise. Episode 29, we thought was it was one of those situations where we thought it wasn't so great, and then it turns out we knocked another one out of the park.
Man, straight out.
Here we are, dirty 30.
dirty.
But if we're being honest, we walked away from 29 going,
Yeah.
And then we went back and listened when we do an internal little let's edit it or not edit because we don't really cut anything. Just listen to it,
tags and
come up with the tags and come up with the title. And we were all kind of like, hey, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was.
We're kind of good at this.
Anyway,
this is 30. That's not 29. We're moving on.
Moving up.
We are three middle-class guys. My name is Kendall. Over there we've got Corey. Over there we've got Dylan. They are brothers. I'm just a guy. And we're doing this because we like talking to each other.
Yep.
And we wanted to throw something out there that isn't as obnoxious as some other things that you might be listening to. We try to be fun. We try to be serious once in a while. But even in that seriousness, we're trying not to jump down anyone's throat. And so just good discussion is what we're after. And this episode is brought to you by Backroom Coffee Roasters.
Backroom Coffee Roasters is the coffee-fueled inspiration. Brown.
They feel at home where wrenches spin, and the scent of roasting coffee wafts through the air. Born in the back room of a bicycle shop in 2010, they quickly outgrew the space, and now roast their small batch coffee in a rustic workshop just north of Columbus, surrounded by woods. The guys at Backroom Coffee Roasters are tinkerers by trade, and they fine-tune each coffee they roast until it meets their standards of quality over quantity. All killer, no filler. Coffee is the fuel that feeds them and is their catalyst for inspiration. Here's to coffee-fueled inspiration. Cue music again.
Here's to coffee-fueled inspiration. Brown.
If you use promo code Middler when you do an order, you get stuff, whether it be a discount or a sticker. Just go in there, order some coffee, type in Middler as a promo code, see what happens.
Show them some love. It's good stuff. They're good people, and we're so honored to be partnered with them. So thanks, Backroom.
Indeed. I had a chance to meet Trent
Yeah.
a couple weekends ago. For the first time for me to meet the owner of the Backroom
He's
Coffee
cool, right?
Roasters.
Like I was telling you?
Yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Super nice guy.
So I'm glad that we get to be a small part of the family in a way.
And he gave us a sample of the new cold brew.
Oh my goodness.
So we're excited to try that.
It was so smooth.
Oh, you did have it?
I had it. I drank it.
Tell us about it.
Rascal.
Yeah, I'm a rascal.
Use lots of adjectives.
Yeah, I didn't even give him a chance to say, hey, here. He could have just given me a can to look at for all I know, and he handed it to me, and in 3 seconds it was open. And it was good. If you're into cold brew at all, You will like that. Canned cold brew. They keep it cold. They store it cold. It's warehoused cold. Everything. And so it was fresh tasting when I had it, which is good. And if you've not had cold brew, I highly recommend it.
And a lot of people still drink cold brew through the winter, so don't think, why would you drink cold brew in the winter?
Yeah.
Those true cold brew brands, they love it year round.
Cold brewing, not iced coffee. Iced coffee is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about cold brew. Different.
Yeah.
The bean does different things when you use a different temperature of water. It comes out sweet and tasty. Do it.
Okay.
Do it.
Thanks, guys. So what's up? Do we have any updates or fact checks or?
No, I mean, you guys poo-pooed on my yogurt thing. So I'm not going to...
Wait a minute. You have to say that differently.
You guys...
We didn't poop on anybody's yogurt. That's not what he means.
No. I'm over here. I was talking all proud about we make a half gallon of yogurt a week. We make our own yogurt. We're making our own bread at our house now. Changes going on in the Ayla household.
Right, in your efforts to use less the plastics, right?
Less plastic, yeah, and which means a couple things. It means use less plastic with that, but then what you find out is that means you're spending more money on some stuff, and so then you're trying to be more efficient with what you're doing, and So
to which Dylan said,
"What did I say?
Save it for the podcast, fellas." And then you did this is gold, Jerry.
It's gold, Jerry. It's gold. Yeah. Look, these people tune in to hear about yogurt and bread preparation.
That's exactly.
And those are the details that we're going to save for these fine folks.
Listen, that's two of our staples.
We already got Backrooms ad in, right?
Yes.
Just making sure.
They're like, thank God we're at the top of that show.
You're welcome. Cold brew.
So what were the staples? Somebody said we've got 2 staples. Did you say that?
No. Well, two of the staples. Two of that. Every time you go to the grocery store, you're buying these 2 things. We're not buying those 2 things anymore.
Yeah.
I thought you meant on the show we have 2 staples. Boring conversation. I thought that's where you're something along those lines.
Yeah.
So in that same vein, we've had a topic that we've talked about multiple episodes now, and it's the idea of merging in traffic.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it. It started with pet peeves, I believe, and then we got a voice message from Jeremy Kester that was hilarious. I don't want to be this person. Yeah, that one. That cracked me up. So Charles, who has been one of the most vocal about this idea of the zipper merge, sent us an article that, although it might be annoying, the drivers who go all the way to the front of the ending lane might actually be in the right. And this actually says they are in the right.
And you don't mean lane, you mean they're correct.
They are correct in what they're doing, as annoying as it is. So we polite Midwesterners who are trying to, because it's not about does the zipper merge work or not. It's when do you start zipping? So for the video podcast people, it's like if the lane's ending, it's when do you start staggering to let people in? So our beef had been that people come to our right side on the lane that will inevitably end and go all the way up to the front and then get in. And that's annoying, right? That's what we were all saying. You try to cut those people off.
Yeah, I drive in 2 lanes, so they couldn't do the zipper
So
merge.
what we do to be nice is start that process of staggering one after the other sooner. But we are actually causing more congestion doing it that way because they're using more road surface to get further up, and it cuts down on congestion by 40%.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you're gonna draw a line somewhere where the zipper merge has to start, I guess it only makes sense that like the only spot you can draw that line is where you have to merge.
Right.
But
I feel like I might be being swayed here.
This feels like every doomsday movie where the computer simulation said we could do it this way. And I'm not convinced based on a video of animated cars perfectly driving and not being human beings is going to sell me on it yet.
Yeah.
In theory.
I hear you.
I think this is going to be one of those situations where the Shatner is right.
What did you say about pooping on yogurt?
What?
That's definitely the name of this episode. So anyway, Charles sent this article. It's worth a read. Go to our Facebook page. It's another reason why you guys need to interact with us on social, because you get all these interesting layers of learning and conversation. So, like I said, just trying to change the world, people.
I don't know. I live in a world where today, driving home on the interstate, nowhere near any congestion. Everyone in my lane, we're all going about 75 to 80, by the way. Somebody slams on their brakes, and I have to slam my brakes, and I'm halfway in the grass for literally no reason.
Yeah.
No traffic. Somebody somewhere just started tapping their brakes, which caused several cars to have to slam their brakes and go off the road from 75 to 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That's the world I live in. Now, if the zipper merge could be addressed like PSA style, cuts over everyone's phones, tablets, TVs, computers, and it's like, this is what's happening.
Well, so a couple states, in that article says, in a couple states, they've started mandating that this become part of the driver education courses, that they teach people how to do it properly.
Yeah.
And so other states are adopting it and considering adopting it as a technique that is taught in driver's education.
Here's part of the thing for me is that I tend to try to judge people's intent, and that's where I get hung up. So if I believe that somebody is just trying to get 10 cars ahead,
right,
then that's where I'm like, no, sir. No,
you're gonna learn today.
And especially in the situation that I had talked about of you're at the intersection, there's two left-hand turn lanes, and within 50 yards after you turn, one of the lanes has to merge into the other. In those situations, like, I know that there's people who are just trying to get in front of you. That's their only goal in life in that moment is to get in front of you.
Right.
Something interesting that had happened, I had a discussion with a friend about this, and this guy is, I mean, he's one of the kindest, nicest, most unassuming people that I know, and I learn a lot of things from him. And we were talking about that, and man, he just said, you know what? I just decided a while ago that I just want to be the kind, like, I don't even care what the situation is or why or what they did before. If somebody has their blinker on and I can let them in 100% of the time, I just decided I'm going to do it. And I don't care about the situation. I'm just going to do it. And I'm like,
he's a better person than
why
I
do you
am.
have to do that to me?
Saintly.
So I think I'm going to try that approach. I think it would be good and healthy for me to try that approach.
Can you report back and let us know how that goes for you?
I'll let you know how it goes for me.
I feel like I'm more likely to be the person who shifts my whole body up to the window. It starts going, zipper, zipper. So they see me through the window. That's why we have a camera now. I want them to see that and like, sorry,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing.
So that was one update. It's worth a little more research, and I think the continued conversation is interesting. I think I might be being swayed that maybe they're not as annoying or evil as I previously thought they were. I'm wearing this.
Oh, sorry.
I'm wearing this hat tonight because we do have the results of the game. In the last episode, we didn't.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago.
We don't have to talk about it, but so.
Are you saying that as if anybody is surprised?
No, I was just saying why I was wearing
Preseason polls had Michigan like a 49% chance of winning the Big Ten.
Right. What did the polls say the day before the game?
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about, though.
Right. No, but what I'm talking about is...
Don't try to confuse me with facts. I'm going somewhere with this.
Was anyone surprised?
Okay.
So anyway.
No one was surprised.
So anyway, go Bucks. So I said in the last episode that it was gun week in Ohio, and I spent 2.5 days in the woods, and a lot happened, and I'm not ready to talk about it yet. And it's beyond just, oh, he didn't see anything, or he shot and missed something. There's a whole dramatic story, but I'm not over it yet. And I think I want to share the story at some other point. This isn't necessarily a tease, but I do think, because from the middle, we like to talk about all types of things. Hunting can sometimes be, maybe not for this audience, our current audience, but when this inevitably spreads all over the world and to the coasts of this great nation, hunting can be a controversial topic. So I think it would be a good, like, short discussion as in some episode about sportsmanship and hunting and the fact that you can actually love and respect nature. And I can think white-tailed deer are beautiful and also want them in my freezer.
Yeah.
So I think it's a cool story. It's an interesting story. I learned a lot. I'm very dejected by it also. So anyway.
Since I think you used the word traumatic, 2 clarifying questions. Did any humans die?
No humans were harmed in the making of these stories.
Second, did you lose any body parts?
To be determined. No, I did not lose any body
Okay.
parts. Everybody is safe.
Then all the listeners can at least know traumatic doesn't equal those 2 things.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
My first concern.
But the story culminates with me and Brad, who was on. I took Brad with me. We spent 2 days in the woods together. The story culminates with he and I standing in the middle of a dark field in the middle of this big country mile in a stranger's woods, holding another stranger's flashlights. We can't find one of the deers that I've wounded, and I'm all on the brink of tears. And we've tracked across huge cornfields. We're exhausted. Our shoes are clogged in mud. It's just, it's worth.
Okay.
I just gotta.
Yeah.
That'll be enough for now.
That's enough for now. But it's really good. It's good and interesting. I'm just not ready to go there yet.
So Corey was looking forward to hunting, and he hunted. And,
I hunted,
and then stuff happened.
Stuff happened.
Would a little yogurt help, or
A lot of yogurt would help, probably.
Yeah, half gallon.
do you flavor it?
I do actually. So I make the yogurt,
Fresh berries?
and then no,
Oh.
I go much simpler than that. I preserve a couple tablespoons to use for starter for the next batch. Put that in the fridge. The rest of it, I sweeten it and add a little vanilla to it.
Nice.
So I make essentially vanilla Greek yogurt is what I'm making.
I'm actually interested in that process of making yogurt and how it cultures. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's interesting.
Yep. It's all about bacteria growing.
Great. So I think I'm going to segue.
Was that a you want to hear all about my yogurt making process?
You said you wanted a segue?
So our kind of
Christmas is coming up.
I know we're going to get to Christmas. I listened to Christmas music on the way here in the car for the part that I wasn't on the phone. It was delightful. I'm jazzed. This is great. So I had this idea a little while back that, we like to bounce between different types of topics. And I think we're all just thoughtful enough that we're not totally idiots. But this sounded like fun when I was thinking about this a while back. So we're all a sucker for a good meme. And we all like those sort of quotes with like the rustic wood background on it, and we like share it, and it's meaningful, and then it disappears into social media. But I thought, what if we actually did an episode where we talked about some meaningful quotes, not necessarily just like movie quotes,
Right.
Or TV quotes, but like meaningful quotes that have helped sort of guide who we are,
Right.
and or song lyrics. I think there's some, there's certainly lots of music that would do that for all of us too.
Hey,
but
they're still quotes.
they are still quotes. That's right. And so I kind of threw this idea out there, and you guys are nice enough to humor me. So here we are. And so I thought it would be really fun to kind of talk through not just the quote itself, but if there's something about it that's meaningful or there's context to the quote that kind of adds a little flavor. We take a lot of quotes out of context. There's a lot of sayings that get passed around, cultural sayings, things like that. I was just talking to Jeremy about that at work today. He used the example, the early bird gets the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. And those are exactly contradictory. But those kind of things that are there, they might be funny.
Wait, you got to stop. The early bird gets the worm.
Yeah. So that one is telling you it's great to be early and first.
Right.
But the second mouse gets the cheese, which is the opposite of wanting to be first.
Yeah, and that's that. I like that.
Why doesn't the first mouse get the cheese?
Well, he does.
Mousetrap.
Yeah.
So they're telling you these little cultural sayings, but they're literally opposites.
I just pictured like big hunk of cheese.
First mouse was like, "Oh, that's too big.
So
I can't."
To all those PETA listeners, I'm sorry I used an animal analogy where.
Well, we're going to talk about killing deer, so
yeah,
stay tuned, PETA.
This is we're not. Maybe that's not our audience. Anyways,
can't you just hunt impossible deer?
But yeah,
apparently I did.
Man, what a tease! We're really gonna have to round this out.
Okay, sorry. Continue.
Yeah,
it's the quotes that shaped us, and the context around it.
Yeah,
okay.
I think if you want to add that, but that was kind of the idea, and so and really, I think what's cool about this is we share this stuff a lot as these kind of memes, but they can come from all over. It could be, your favorite movie celebrity who has an interesting line in an interview. It can be a historical figure, a politician. It can be a loved one. It can be some little sort of cultural saying that's been passed around your region or whatever. But I'd love to talk about some that we find meaningful. And then what I'd also love is comment on YouTube, tweet us, comment on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. All of you are going to have favorite sayings and things that were impactful for you that we'd love to hear after this episode. Call in with a voicemail if you've got a couple or one that you really love. And I think we can always come back because I barely touched into some of the music lyrics that are meaningful to me and just barely because I knew really this was way more than one episode. And for me at least, if you guys enjoy this, I'd love to revisit it if other people find it enjoyable or fun as well. So that was kind of the idea.
Love it.
I appreciate you guys humoring me as we did this exercise. But if you want, I can go ahead and start.
Yes, please.
Since this was mine.
Do it.
Sort of idea. We talked a little bit about, or very early on, I think episode 1 introductions. I'm a history guy.
Yeah.
And so I was bound to have a couple historical quotes. And Eleanor Roosevelt gets a lot of love for some of her quotes, but without going in too much into her background, this is the spouse of FDR during World War II, 4-term president, the niece of Teddy Roosevelt, who was another president. So really interesting character in our historical past and widely considered to be one of the most influential U.S. figures in the 20th century. She has a couple, and some of the quotes that I like, that we all like might be a little cheesy. I think that's okay. Like we've all seen these in our, elementary school posters growing up.
Yep.
Corey, you mentioned one of those early on in one of the creative episodes.
Yeah, there's that one about the second mouse.
There's the one about this. I don't remember how it goes, but something
about cheesy.
Cheese. Yeah.
You guys, it's because there's a trap. That's what it.
Oh, cheese whiz. Now I get it.
Some of you aren't cerebral enough to understand.
Yeah. Thanks. So I'm going to start with a very probably arguably her most popular quote, which was meaningful then as it is now. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
Oh.
And I think that to give a little context to the quote, she was dealing with a lot of women's rights, social advocacy, things like that. But even today, that still feels like a very relevant quote, especially with this. Even now, you've got this new element of social media and people seeking likes and comments, and it's different for the podcast because we're trying to advertise, but individuals trying to seek validation through social media. Right. And the lack of that, people are taking personally. They don't hold value because they're not seeing the type of personal interactions that they want. Mm-hmm. And this has all kinds of social, racial, all kinds of implications. It's purely not social media. But I think for a lot of people, I think as we kind of deep dive into what some of these quotes mean, I think it's going to means something very different to a lot of different people. But that no one can make you ultimately feel inferior without your own consent. And so you've got to sort of be your own biggest fan first. And I think that's really pretty. And I'm not going to eloquently give a new or fresh take on a lot of these quotes. They're just meaningful to us.
Sure.
It doesn't mean we're interpreting them perfectly or whatever. So I think people should keep that in mind. We're not experts. I'm not an English major. I'm not going to be able to break this down.
Yeah, no, it's all about what it means.
Yeah, and so
what it means to you, what you gleaned from it.
I really like that one. And another one from her, do what you feel in your heart to be right, for you'll be criticized anyways. And I think that's another really good one because we're often, sometimes if you're trying to be too centrist, to not offend anybody, it's that what's the saying? If you don't stand up for something, you'll stand up for nothing.
You'll fall for
anything. But that sort of implication that everyone's going to be a critic no matter what you choose to do. So just do the right thing. Do what you know to be true and right.
Right.
But I love a couple of those Eleanor Roosevelt quotes. Also, Teddy Roosevelt, her uncle, has a lot of great quotes.
Yeah. Speaking of being critical, I couldn't help but notice that I had taken time to run your headphone cable down underneath the table.
Yeah.
And then I just now noticed that you were just like, no.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it up there anyway.
I'm so sorry.
I'm going to put it up here. I thought I was doing you a favor. I was trying to do something nice for you.
Yeah.
And then you went ahead and did that. And then you went and started talking Eleanor Roosevelt quotes, which makes you a good guy. And so now I can't attack you for it.
Yeah. I am so sorry.
You've stolen my dreams.
So anyways, who's next? Kendall, you want to go or?
How dare you?
It's funny because we're idiots.
All right. So where do I want to start here? There's one that I think I might want to save for last. I don't care if it's like the last one we do. It's the last one I'm going to do.
Okay.
Do we want something from a book or from a song?
It's your world, man.
It's my world. Okay. I'm going to start with something from Ender's Game.
Okay.
Again, I think in episode 1 or 2, I expressed my love for the Ender Universe books. And this one says, in the moment when I truly understand my enemy, understand him well enough to defeat him, then in that very moment, I also love him.
Whoa.
And that, that mindset to me, means so much that it changes the way that I, generally speaking, think about humanity, and it when I look around me, I don't see a whole bunch of people that are my enemy, even the people who are trying to get around me in merging situations, and people who work at popular coffee chains. Even those people,
right? Even the worst of the worst, even those people,
even those ones. No, in a moment when I truly understand my enemy, understand him well enough to defeat him, then in that very moment I also love him. And so it's just like if you can have empathy for other people, even people who you think have wronged you, even people who the world tells you that you should hate. If you can have some level of empathy and try to understand where they come from, why they are the way that they are, why they're doing the things that they're doing, and I mean, I think eventually you can get down to a root that is very broken and in many cases shameful and I don't know, and then if you can get to that point, you get to a point where you want to help them, and you want to love them. And so the interesting thing about that quote is saying that when you understand him well enough to defeat him. So when you get to the point, when you get to the very core, the thing that could actually absolutely crush them if you pressed on that button, then the moment that you see the button, your hatred for them is gone because you get it.
Yeah.
So I want to read that part of the quote is what I remembered. or the gist of that, reading the rest of that, that line from the book, in that very moment, I also love him. I think it's impossible to really understand somebody, what they want, what they believe, and not love them the way they love themselves. And then, in that very moment when I love them, I destroy them. So that's how the quote ends.
Yeah.
I try not to destroy people.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I just love that we can go from pooping in yogurt to that all within 10 minutes.
With it, yes.
It's the kind of work we're doing here at From the Middle.
I have another Ender's Game one as well.
Do it.
If you try and lose, and it isn't your fault, but if you don't try and we lose, then it's all your fault. So if you try and lose, it's not your fault. If you lose and don't try, it is your fault. So that's one that I wouldn't take that one to heart. I wouldn't take that whole concept and say, here, implant this in your mind and live your life this way, necessarily. But if we're talking about things like ideas that have kind of like not just shaped me, but kind of defined some of the ways that I operate, like that's one of the ways that I often operate. Like I'm the guy in a room where if somebody's asking for a volunteer to do something and nobody's raising their hand, I'm the one who'll give in and do it, because like I don't want it to not get done. And I think to myself, like, man, if this is an opportunity missed, and I had the ability to make the sacrifices to make sure it happened, that's me being driven by guilt. I would feel guilty if it didn't happen. Like, regardless that there were 20 other people in the room that could have raised their hand and didn't. Right. The fact that I didn't, that's it for me. Like, it often falls on me, is the way I picture those things. So that's one that kind of defines me a little bit more, I suppose, than it shaped me, because I was already that way. But when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, that's good. So we established in the Freak Flags episode that I always have to come up with like a rationale or a justification for things.
I can't wait for this. I'm so excited.
So my quotes are in the order. If you think of it like a timeline, my quotes are in the order of when I heard it and why, and it shaped me to get to the next chapter.
You put a lot of thought into this.
I tried to.
Yeah. It's going to be a good episode, guys.
I took your homework seriously, Dylan.
Good job, little buddy.
And so a lot of these are ones that you heard a lot growing up that you used to roll your eyes at, and then you find yourself saying them to your kids.
Yeah.
And the most quoted thing in our house was "Can't died in the poorhouse."
I've never heard that one before.
So a personification of the word can't. Can't is a,
Oh, okay. So now it makes more sense.
Can't died in the poorhouse.
Because you had texted that to us or sent it to us somehow. And when I was reading it, like I wasn't.
Yeah. And to me, that's closely related to this idea, like most people think that the opposite of success is failure, but failure is actually a friend of success. So if the whole fail forward idea that you either learn or you give up, right?
Yeah.
Like so, and Can't died in the poorhouse. To me, those are closely related. So that was Grandpa Connor drilled that into our mom, and then our mom and dad said that a lot growing up.
Yeah. Now tying into this whole idea of even like with startup companies and venture capital investments, like the idea of failing fast.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to fail, just fail fast, and we won't burn as much money. We'll learn from it and we'll move on. Yeah. Or we'll learn that it's over and it's on to a different project.
Yeah.
But not only are we really trying to embrace it, we're like, if we're going to do it, let's really do it. And I think that's super interesting.
Let me get through some of the ones from parents, because there's kind of a clump of them here, because again, it's a timeline. So I already told you guys in episode, I think it was 7, about if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I looked up to try to see who that was. Some say it was Confucius. Some say that it was like this Stanford professor or something from like a really long time ago. So I'm not really sure who said it, but that obviously, I mean, has meant a lot to me and shaped me very early on.
Sorry. I like that those
It's
are
funny.
Those are the only two options: Confucius or a professor at Stanford. Those
So
are
there were lots of
thousands of years apart. Modern society, and just how you phrased it was a
Screw
funny.
you, man.
Sorry,
I think
Lily.
all of the high school guidance counselors got together and came up with that one.
Yeah, probably. Sorry, it's a great quote. It was just how
No,
you
don't patronize me.
Okay.
Okay. So, anytime I was facing a challenge growing up or a difficulty, Dad would say, we only see one puzzle piece at a time, but God has the box lid and He sees the completed picture. And I've repeated that to friends going through stuff. I don't know if it's ever helped them, but it helped me. And I think that that's so true. Your view can get so myopic and you can focus so much on the circumstances and forget that. And even if you're not a spiritual person, it still applies this idea that everything you're going through is part of the process of you growing and developing and changing and transforming and developing as a person. So, and that there's a bigger picture, and that this is one moment, one chapter, and it might not make sense. The piece that you have that you're holding might not make sense in the moment, but you click a few more to it, and you zoom out just a little bit, and you go, "Oh, that's why that was necessary."
Yeah.
It made no sense in the moment. Everything told me in the moment that it should have been X, but now I understand why it absolutely had to be Y.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that one was a good one. And the old, I can't fix it if I don't know it's broken.
Yeah, I heard that a lot.
Communication, man. Like, how many Simon and Garfunkel songs are written about where communication fails, everything else breaks down? I mean, The Sound of Silence is about that, right? So, like, this idea that, like, people stop communicating and it sort of ripples from there. I mean, how many unfortunate marriages have you seen end where at some point one or both decided that it wasn't worth the battle, it wasn't worth talking about, it was going to be too hard to talk about it, I don't want to have this same. But when communication stops and then you start harboring and resenting and stuff festers because you stopped communicating. So
Yeah. And then you start building up your own story
yeah, yep,
in your mind.
yep,
And then truth becomes irrelevant.
yep.
And yeah.
So a lot of good quotes from parents and relatives growing up. You're up, sir.
Oh, that's sweet.
Beat that.
No problem. Just kidding. I have one of the really cheesy ones that we all saw on a poster in a classroom at some point.
Hang in there.
It's overused with the little kitten on the limb.
Yeah.
So cute.
Oh,
No,
man.
that's not
I'm
it.
going to have to get rid of that on my list.
Oh man. No, it's overused, but it doesn't mean it's not good. It's the be the change you wish to see in the world.
Yeah.
By Mahatma Gandhi or Mohandas Gandhi.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really good, what I love about it is the action implied. So it's not just, and I'm guilty of this. It's not just go and post on social media about the problem, hoping that enough people read it and somebody else does something. It's you need to be the change for the things that you want to see affected in the world. You have to go do something.
Right.
That the key element of that is personal action, not just, even speaking about it. It's not enough often. You need to be able to go do something. We can't all travel around the world to fix a problem or travel, you can't even all leave the office and go do something at work. But,
Yeah.
sometimes that comes in different forms.
Sure.
But I like the action implied in that. And I think it's great.
Cool story, bro. So
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
I'm
Sweet.
cutting you off for a second. So the first, this quote investigator website about if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life, since you're going to make fun of me. I'm fact checking live. The first person says it's often attributed to Confucius, but then it says the earliest strong match located by quote investigator was published in the Princeton Alumni Weekly in 1982, which quoted a professor of philosophy named Arthur Sathmary, who employed the saying. However, he attributed the words to an old-timer who was not identified.
So Confucius.
So Confucius it was.
Got it. There you go.
Okay,
There it is.
this is your next one.
Yeah, we'd all forgotten already. But Corey was over there just
You were
thinking.
stewing on it, weren't you? I'll show him.
Wow, I'm teasing. That is a good one. Be the change. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, here's the thing. We've all shared the generic meme with the whatever, the castle background and the cool whatever. And sometimes it's a verse from the Bible, and sometimes it's a workout thing. And sometimes we've all shared them. That doesn't mean we can't sort of stop and smell the roses, so to speak. Like sometimes we need to sit and actually think about the thing. Because it can actually add value to our day or our world or whatever. It being overused is us ruining it. That's not the thing souring. The thought is still good.
Yes.
Even if we overuse it.
I agree.
Anyways.
Yep. Well said. Thank you.
All right.
That.
Yeah. There's a lot of people raising awareness. There's not a whole lot of people doing stuff.
Yeah.
I feel that way a lot.
Yeah, I'm guilty of like that.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
me
happy
too.
to say right
Me
away,
too.
I'm guilty of it. I'm not out. What's the organization we all think of when you think of volunteering to go, like fix things around the world?
Greenpeace?
Greenpeace. That's probably it. Yeah,
Red Cross,
that could be it. I don't know.
Samaritan First.
Yeah, all of those are good. Those are all the ones I'm not doing. So yeah, that's probably it.
Got it. All right. So I've got. We're gonna do a song lyric.
Could be its own episode.
Alanis
Morissette.
Just song lyrics could be its own
It was
episode, by the way. But
Big disgrace. It was a slap in the face. And are you thinking of me? No, that's not.
I thought that was a Paul Heyman quote. I didn't know.
No, it's not. It's nothing. You're just words.
Literally
Five
not
Iron
what this
Frenzy.
episode is about.
Five Iron.
The whole point of the episode was the opposite of what you just said.
Oh, God.
There you go. All right.
Five Iron Frenzy, my favorite band of all time. And one of my favorite songs of theirs is a song called On Distant Shores. And actually, hanging in my office, you can't see it on camera, but if you guys have ever like stared at this thing and wondered where it came from, it is from this song. My wife made that thing for me. No, I didn't actually. Hold up.
It's on the wall.
It is on the wall, but I can't talk into my microphone and turn around.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, when grace was easy to forget, I denounced the hypocrites, casting first stones, killing my own. You would unscale my blind eyes, and I stood battered but more wise. Is the quote. Again, for me, this is another moment where like legitimately like my view on humanity altered when I came across those words in context of this song. And I remember like when I had that album and was listening to it for the first time, and like I got to this song, like through that, like that's part of the bridge, and then there's another bridge after that, and I literally remember tearing up and crying as I'm listening to it and reading the lyrics along with it. And I'm going to read actually the whole bridge. It says, "Night came and I broke my stride. I swallowed hard but never cried. And then when grace was easy to forget, I denounced the hypocrites, casting first stones, killing my own. You would unscale my blind eyes, and I stood battered but more wise, fighting to accelerate, shaking free from crippling weight. With resilience unsurpassed, I clawed my way to you at last, and on my knees I wept at your feet. I finally believed you still loved me." So for me, like, now this isn't just the view of humanity, but now it's me plugging myself into it, if that makes any sense. And saying that all of the rancor and the hate that I've extended to other people, whether it was actually like acted out by me or just in my own heart, realizing like how little I know, how little I understand grace in those moments.
Yeah.
Because that grace has applied to me. And so for me to point the finger and call other people sinners in a way that assumes that I'm not, is just, it lacks all truth. So that idea of when you're killing them, when you're acting out on them, you're acting out on humanity and yourself, because you are of them, and in that recognition that you are of them, then seeing the fact that going faith here, that there's a Jesus who not only loved humanity, but because you are part of that humanity, that he is a part of redeeming, then you can understand too for yourself what he's done for you. So
That's good, man.
that's that one.
Yeah.
There's the bar, Corey.
Wow. Okay. So we're moving into dating and marriage now in my timeline of quotes. And very, very early on, I think this might have even been in our pre-marriage counseling that we did. If not, it was in the first couple years. Pretty popular book, Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas. And the whole premise of the book, so this isn't even a quote, it's just the subtext of the book, is what if God designed marriage to make us holy more than to make us happy? So again, if you're not spiritual or you don't claim any of that stuff, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater just yet, because I think this still applies to committed relationships. But culture and society tells people in relationships, like this whole, girl, if you ain't happy, you just need to leave that man, you know? And I think this idea that relationships are about cohabitating with the least amount of friction as possible. This quote was the first time that I thought, oh, this whole marriage thing is actually a refining process for me to develop and transform as a person. We just did a marriage conference at our church, Paul Tripp Marriage Conference, and that was the premise of the 4 sessions that he did. Each were like 30 to 40 minutes. And it's this whole idea that, like, if you imagine 2 rocks in a tumbler, the sticky, outy, jagged parts of you and the sticky, outy, jagged parts of this other person are being put into a tumbler, and over time, you will become smooth. You're helping each other to... but that only comes with friction. And I think so many times people give up when they experience friction or difficulty in marriage and in committed relationships, because they're like, well, it shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be hard. And this whole quote, what if God designed marriage to make us holy more than to make us happy, is actually saying it is the crucible in which you are developing and transforming into the person that you have been called to be. And so that whole idea is so countercultural. Like that stands in almost direct opposition to every message that we get from TV shows and billboards, and that it's about, we should feel good, there should be no fights, there should be no, and it's like, no, this is the thing. This is the hard work.
Yeah, no, exactly. There, the fight and the difficulty and all that stuff is worth it, because there's something so much better.
Yeah, man.
Than yeah,
and that just, I mean, that was the first time, because I mean, you're young and you're like, okay, I really like this person. We have a lot in common. I think if we live together, it'll be relatively frictionless.
Yeah.
The goal isn't frictionless.
Yeah.
Eventually, you might get less friction. Ooh. But it's not frictionless.
Right.
And that was just that, like, one of those moments where I'm like, oh. Now, that doesn't mean that I view every heated conversation as a growth opportunity. I'm still working on that, but it does reveal that I do still have sticky outy parts that need shaved off. Yeah. And so that whole book, if you have a marriage that isn't perfect, that whole book is so good. And there's a lot of good resources like that. But anyway, good stuff.
Yeah, and I think we hint around some of that even with traditional marriage vows, or even kind of the secular phrase like "love is a choice daily." Love isn't the emotion or the it's not how you feel. Like, well, I just don't. I don't. You'll hear some people say, "Well, I don't feel like I'm in love with them in my significant other anymore. I don't feel." It's like, well, it's not. It's a choice daily to be there for that person.
Love is a verb.
Yeah. So no, I think that's. I'm really glad that you shared that because I think that's good amidst everyone dealing with all kinds of relationship stuff. If nothing else, I think it gives us all something to think
we
about.
had some stuff in some close friendships come up this very week that it was like, ooh, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this.
Yeah.
But I was like, but I'm choosing to be in community and relationship with these people. And I think what's happening is just the beautiful mess that is people living in close proximity and in relationship with one another. And if you're committed to the friendship, the goal is, hey, let's work through this.
Yeah.
It's not, hey, this is hard, we're done.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then nobody grows and nobody changes.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And I want to add too, by the way, that marriage conference that Corey talked about, he led that conference and put it together, and you did a great job, my friend. My wife and I went, and it was a good couple days.
thanks, man.
It's awesome. So I have a quote from actually one of the Lord of the Rings films. But since it's also a book, I felt like I needed to include it. And the context in this one, I think, is important too. But the quote, we all know the character Gandalf, even if you've never read the books, there's enough pop culture references, you know who it is. And he's sort of consoling his small hobbit friends, essentially at what what appears to be their imminent demise. And so I believe the film, if you recall the films, was Return of the King. They're sort of holed up in Minas Tirith, and they're pounding, the enemy is sort of pounding at the gates of the city, and they're about to break in and probably end everything.
Yeah.
And the quote is, Gandalf is referring to how kind of he views the world as opposed to our primary villain, who is Sauron. And it's Gandalf saying, I found it's the small everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay. Small acts of kindness and love. And I love the quote because it's sort of this eternal hope in the face of imminent death, and just kind of how he views the world. And it's a really sweet, quiet moment before the chaos. And he still has that sort of eternal hope and optimism. Of what he views as it's not grand gestures. It doesn't require one person doing a huge thing to change the world.
Right.
We all have that ability to do so. And so I love for many reasons, I love those films. That's one of those kind of key moments where you just go, whoa, this is way deeper than just a fantasy world with some battle sequences.
Yeah.
It cuts deep at what society needs. And so it's always been one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah. I don't know who said this, but it was, I guess it ties only loosely to what you just said. Ties closer to something that was said earlier. But I can't remember where I know that I was watching something on YouTube when I heard it. And it was somebody was giving a talk and said this. If you want to change the world, start by making your bed. Was the quote. Like if you want to, I forget exactly what it was. The idea was like if you want to be the kind of person that makes giant changes and things, like take care of your own stuff.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I like that. I like that idea, and I think that speaks volumes. That like you have this culmination of just what seem like mundane, stupid little decisions that billions of people across the world are making every day, and whatever those little decisions are, culminate into what our environment is.
Yeah, there's a lot of books around that. Darren Hardy has one called The Compound Effect, which is just like small decisions compounded over time. There's another one called The Slight Edge. That's really good about that. But yeah, it's all that like, it takes 21 days to develop a habit, and if if all you did was drink one less can of pop each day, you wouldn't see, overnight, P90X, that's a dated reference, P90X results, right? But after 2 years, you'd be X amount of pounds lighter. And isn't that still better? And it's just one can less. It's not saying, I'm done with pop for the rest of my life.
Right.
Right? It's just saying, like, small decisions compounded over time.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're up next, man.
I totally feel that. Now that we're on the YouTube, people are probably well aware that I have problems with diets. And I think and my wife, God love her, is often annoyed by like I'm a all or nothing attitude with everything, and it just
samesies.
Yep. Anyway, there's a lot of things, including diets, that become problematic with that attitude. All right, so this is one by a guy named Andrew Schwab, who is the lead singer, and he, for another one of my favorite bands called Project 86. But he is also a writer, and he's published different poetry books, and one book that he wrote, it's called "It's All Downhill from Here," which is actually a book about him and his band being on tour. So it's kind of like a whatever biography of that account. But anyway, the quote is, "Jeff Tate has halitosis." Corey, you're next.
Wait.
Huh? Does that need explanation?
Probably a little.
Jeff Tate has halitosis.
Yeah.
So halitosis is a condition of bad breath. Mm-hmm. You have bad breath. That's what halitosis is. Mm-hmm. All right. Is that enough information? Jeff Tate is if you don't know who Jeff Tate is, he was the lead singer for a band called Queensryche.
Yep.
A metal band. And so in this chapter of the book, it's a really funny chapter. And this whole time, like he's hinting toward like there's this big revelation at the end of this chapter.
Right.
And like I couldn't believe it. Like it changed my world, blah blah blah. And then like he's like being way dramatic in his description of the scene and everything, and he gets to finally meet Jeff Tate, and he finds out Jeff Tate has halitosis. And that was like his big revelation. And it was, I laughed out loud as I was reading that. Cause like, I read for like 20 pages, like this whole build up to find out that Jeff Tate has halitosis. But the point, the point there being that you're the people who you consider celebrity, the people who you idolize, the people who you look up to and might think that they are superhuman somehow, like they deal with things like bad breath too. Like they really are just people like you are. And so that there's a certain level of attainability that can come along with realizing that. So I don't know. For me, that's important, not just with celebrities, but just like people are just people, and like I mean they're not idols. Like there's no need to idolize them. You can appreciate them. You can appreciate their work. And that sort of thing, but don't think that you are somewhere down in the dumps, and that you can never be what you see these other folks doing. And I'm not talking about just like rich and famous. I'm just talking about like the guy that I talked to before who like told me about how gracious he is when it comes to driving and letting people merge, and the fact that was a decision he had to make in order to do that. And that's a situation where it's like, man, I wish I could be more like him, but I'm not. I'm more like me. And I don't know. You don't need to think that way.
Yep.
Like,
it's good.
He probably has halitosis too.
I wonder how Jeff feels about this book floating around.
I don't know.
He's probably cool with it. Because everybody's got stuff, right?
Everybody's got stuff.
Yeah.
Man. Have you known anybody who has like legit halitosis? I might, and people are just nice to me. I don't know.
I have met people who, now that I know that's a thing, probably have it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like I've never told anybody that they have it. That I think they.
I just want to apologize to my wife. I'm so sorry.
I thought the moral of the story was going to be like, you got to have that friend who says, dude, your breath stinks, you know?
No.
That could be another quote, though.
You all need that James Taylor in your life that says, hey, man, fire it before it quits on you.
That's right.
When referencing my hair.
I really thought you were talking about the musician James Taylor for a moment and didn't understand the context of
He
that
is
quote.
a musician.
He is.
Well,
he's leading worship for me
mind.
this weekend while I head to Nashville.
So I think we're going to go a little longer on this one, and I think that's okay because this is good conversation. I like it. So we'll go until you guys are uncomfortable.
Okay. Well, I'm out, so I'll try to find some.
So Sherry and I spent some time in multi-level marketing, and we're not going to talk about that because everybody just cringed a little when I said that. But I've told you guys before, I think it would be a good episode to talk about that experience. We ultimately decided that was no longer for us, that was a good chapter of our life, but we were ready to move on from that. As a part of that, we were all around a lot of very successful people, very genuine people, very authentic people. They are not all the horror story of the annoying uncle you had in the 70s who brought a whiteboard into your living room. So we did have some very positive experiences there. And some of the quotes from that sort of chapter in our life was, you're going to become like who you hang out with. Yep. If you want to catch a cold, get around people with a cold. Very closely related to sort of this idea that was very huge for me was take advice from people who are in life where you want to be. Mm-hmm. And that's not just success principles. That's not just like weight loss. That's everything. Like everybody is going to have advice for you or an opinion on what they think you should be doing. But at some level, you should look on the fruit of their tree and go, okay, how much weight maybe do I give this advice that I'm getting? You're not going to take diet advice from me. I don't recommend it. But I would give you a lot of good advice about developing your art skills or something like that, right? So take advice from people who are in life where you want to be. Very closely related to another quote from Will Rogers, which is, even if you're on the right track, so let's assume you did those first two, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. So now you've learned from these people. They've given you this advice. You're moving in that direction, but if you're stagnant, it's, you got to keep, and that goes back to the first one, kind of that association thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like the analogy of coals of a fire. If you keep the coals together, they will stay hotter longer. But if you separate them out into individual coals, they're going to burn out. So I think those are all kind of very closely related, but that idea of just getting around the people who have the fruit on the tree that you want. That could be in their spiritual life. That could be their fitness. That could be their marriage. Back to my earlier quotes, right? Like you could say, hey, you two have clearly figured something out. You're smoother rocks than we are. How did you do that? What was some of the work that you did? Like ask questions. Like Sherry and I, probably to an annoying degree, love getting around people and just asking them questions. How did you guys do that? And what was that chapter like? And then how did that work out? Now, what was the ripple effect of that? And then what did you, I just really like that sort of investigative learning that you can do from people, which is why I think we all need mentors in life. It's all kind of a big ball of goodness to me.
It's great. I got a good one from Will's brother, Fred Rogers.
Are they really brothers?
I have no idea.
No, okay.
No clue. We've discussed how I'm a Fred Rogers fan. And I used one of his quotes in an earlier episode, so I'm going to use a different one.
Okay.
I think the dude had I don't know if he'd like being referred to as a dude. I don't think he would care. I think he had way more of a cultural impact than we still let on, even with biopics and documentaries coming out about his life now. But anyways, I'm going to change the language just slightly to make it work for everybody. I don't think anyone can grow unless they're loved exactly as they are now, appreciated for what they are rather than what they will be. And I don't think we need to deep dive too much into who Fred Rogers is or why that's meaningful. We've hinted at a lot of that kind of stuff. But I'll read it one more time.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can grow unless they're loved exactly as they are now, appreciated for what they are rather than what they will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
I
Real good.
appreciate that.
All right. Kendall, you said you're out.
You're out already?
No, I've got more.
I'm skipping several. This is going to have to be another episode.
I'm skipping several
later.
too. And these are all ones that I just came up with off the top of my head. I didn't go back to any notebooks or like highlighted sections of favorite books. This is literally just the first ones off the top of my head. So I'll kind of fly through a couple, or Kendall, if you want to.
Mark Twain once said, "Few things are harder to put up with than the annoyance of a good example." And like Dylan said, I don't think that that's one that we need to flesh out. I think we've all thought long and hard about that one.
Yeah.
Yogi Berra once said, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it."
The baseball player, not the bear.
The baseball player, yes.
That's a perfect segue. So Dylan and I have a relative in the Baseball Hall of Fame,
what?
Carl Hubble.
Truth.
Okay.
He played for the New York Giants back in the Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth days.
Okay.
And one of his quotes was on my list.
Nice.
He says, "A fellow doesn't last long on what he has done. He has to keep on delivering." And here's why that's significant. I believe it was, oh crap, I just lost the.
Nuts.
It's relevant. In the, yep, I got it right here. In the 1934 All-Star Game, Hubble produced one of baseball's most memorable moments by striking out 5 future Hall of Famers in succession.
Wow.
Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin. So that was like his biggest claim to fame. And I believe that quote that I just read was after he did that.
Okay.
So this is coming from somebody who had this one singular amazing moment, and then he's like, you have to keep on keeping on, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't live off of the glow of that moment forever.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. So did you go to the San Francisco Giants Stadium? Is that one of the places you said you went when you?
No, I've not been there.
Anyway, his number 11 is retired and is still in Giants Stadium before the team moved from New York to San Francisco. So you can actually see Carl Hubble's number retired and hanging in the stadium.
Nice.
So anyway, I thought that was cool. Both a relative and a cool quote. Something that I heard, don't solve the wrong problem really well. So often we spend time. I do this what I'm doing with my hands right now. I do this all the time with Sherry. I feel like what we're doing is we're talking about and maybe sometimes arguing about stuff up here, but there's this thing that's really going on, right?
Yeah.
And companies can do the same thing. They're trying to solve a symptom instead of trying to fix the disease, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so don't solve the wrong problem really well. Try to get to what's really going on. You could burn a lot of cycles and you can spend a lot of energy trying to solve a symptom.
Yeah, I'm gonna save a couple for another time, but I'm gonna throw a couple songs out there, and one of them's really popular, and a couple of them you might not know. But if you've never sat and really listened to or read the lyrics to like "My Way" by Frank Sinatra, and then "Guess I'll Hang My Tears Out to Dry." Now, "Guess I'll Hang My Tears Out to Dry" is from Sinatra's "Only the Lonely." Frank Sinatra sings "Only for the Lonely" or something like that album, which he considered to be his best album. Most consider the same. Awesome album. Listen to the whole, the titler song is great too, but that one specifically, man, like you can tell the dude went through some stuff in his life when you read some of those lyrics. And it's not very often that somebody performs across, nobody has performed across 7 decades and stayed relevant.
Yeah.
And Sinatra did it. And sure, he has this dark side that, but incredible for not being an incredible singer, he was an incredible entertainer, and he knew what he was doing. And so, as someone who's a big Michael Bublé, Rat Pack, Nat King Cole, Sinatra guy, that Only the Lonely album and some of those songs in there are incredibly well done. And then I also love more modern reference, Ben Rector. I don't know who's familiar with Ben Rector. A couple of his songs, Sailboat and Making Money, are fantastic. Just the whole song. So any of those four specifically, we could deep dive into meaningful songs and it'd be a whole episode. But those were just a couple that like popped into my head that are like, man, these are incredibly thoughtful lyrics. That for me, I'm not a songwriter, but as somebody who enjoys listening, those are some songs I really love, and I'll save some of this other stuff for another time.
Since you're on Ben Rector, this is so relevant in our world today with everything going on, and just socially, I feel like there's. I've mentioned this multiple times since we started this podcast. It just feels like it's pretty tense out there. Ben Rector's song "More Like Love." Just look up the lyrics to Ben Rector, More Like Love. And tell me that doesn't apply directly to what we're seeing culturally going on right now and how polarized we are. So when Sherry and I were in Hawaii earlier this year, we each got tats. And my most recent one is the Maori or sort of tribal waves on my wrist. And it's from a quote that is often attributed to Charles Spurgeon, but his institute said he never said it. But it doesn't matter because it's still a great quote. Charles Spurgeon was a really well-known pastor. And he said, "I have learned to kiss the waves that throw me up against the rock of ages."
Yes.
I have learned to kiss the waves that throw me up against the rock of ages. So embracing the trials and tribulations and things in life that ultimately draw you closer to the Creator. And again, this idea of transformation, that those are actually moments to develop your character. And so I like that it's on my right wrist, because when I'm complaining about whatever silly delayed flight or whatever, it kind of puts me in my place. And it's a band, and on the other side is the he greater than I, which is just the reminder of like this little thing that I'm facing, which is based on John 3:30. He must increase and I must decrease. This little thing that I'm experiencing, it's not about me. There's a bigger story here. That's why he is capitalized, and then the greater than sign, and then the I is lowercase. And that seems like a duh thing. Like, well, of course God is greater than you. But I think we forget all the ways in life that we elevate ourselves either to the position of we want to play God, we want to decide this should be this way and this should be, I know what's best for me, I got this, right? And going like, oh, whoa. So it's that's why it's there, and that's why it faces me, because I also don't believe that we should push necessarily or force or browbeat people with our faith. I think it should be personal, but I think it's important, and I think people need to hear it, but not to the point where I'm literally hitting anyone in the head with a Bible. So,
well, there's a quote that I love that it might feel a little similar, even if you don't hold any kind of religious affiliation, that would make sense. And it's if something isn't going to matter in 5 years, it doesn't matter now, and so it's just some level of awareness that we get hung up on so many small things that we make such big deals that really, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, there's no reason to care about it right now. Or if you have to deal with something, deal with it and move on. There's much bigger things in life that are far more important than a lot of the little stuff that we find ourselves hung up on.
Good stuff.
I'm fine saving the rest for another time.
Yeah.
Let's live to fight another day.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some stuff from Ludacris
Of course.
that I want to share. Friend of the show.
He left a voicemail. We couldn't share it. It was so good, but it was long, and we didn't know if we could fit it.
And yeah.
Have you guys... Oh, sorry.
Disney told us to try to watch our language.
That's true.
Have you guys heard about this Cameo app? Do you know anything about Cameo?
Nothing.
No.
So Cameo is an app that celebrities sign up for, and they make themselves available to record personal video messages
Okay.
to whoever you want.
That's fun.
And they're astonishingly affordable. Like, for $50, you could get a pro wrestler to send a video message to your buddy.
Yeah.
And I think it would be hilarious
Yeah.
if we got Luda, because he's probably on there and his are probably cheap. Just kidding. We love you. I think it would be hilarious if we did that, or I don't know. I think there's a lot of opportunities there for people that we've mentioned on the podcast so far.
So here's what I'm hearing. Y'all need to buy a bunch of stickers. And then we're going to get a message from
that
Ludacris,
we can hire Ludacris.
So we can hire Ludacris
to make a 10-second video.
Okay, listen, seriously. These From the Middle stickers, we've said it before. We have them now. We have the price. We have the PayPal all worked out. So you can order these for yourself, for your friends for Christmas, people that you know that listen. These are really high quality vinyl decal stickers, 5 inches by 2.5 inches. Go to paypal.me/fromthemidpod. And they're like, what, 4 for 1, 2 for 7, and then down from there. We do a little savings each time. And seriously, these are awesome. And we're going to do a social media thing where take a picture of wherever you put it, on your computer or on your iPad or on your office building walls. I don't know what
Public
I'm saying.
restrooms.
Public restrooms. And I always say use the hashtag @FromTheMid. Those are two different things. When you tag @From the Midpod, take a picture, then it'll track to our site and we can see it, and it'll be cool to see a collage of these stickers in different places. So seriously, get a sticker, support us.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
I had the pleasure of putting the first batch of them in the mail myself to go out. And thank you very much. Shout out to our very first sticker purchaser, Nate.
We're $7 richer, boys.
I love you, buddy.
Right on.
We do want to do little upgrades and make quality video and do different things with this podcast. So that just gives us a little kitty. We're not trying to get rich off of that. That just gives us a little kitty from which we can make little upgrades to our setup here. And, you know, we're having fun with this. So we plan on continuing it. And that's one small way that you can support us. And again, let your friends know, and we appreciate it.
So enjoy staring at your sticker while you drink a smooth cup of backroom coffee and you listen to our podcast.
Thanks, Ludacris.